Well, good morning and welcome to JR's Woodshop. That'd be me. I'm Jeff. This is my shop, and it's where I make stuff out of wood. Yeah.
Good morning.
And that's where I come down here and turn my voice off because, it's bad enough I have to hear myself, once. I don't need to hear myself twice. Let's see, what are we doing today? Lots of stuff today. First, how are you doing? Thanks for stopping in if you're here. Let's see, I got to hit all the essential stuff. I'm streaming right now on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook. And if you look down at the bottom down here, you'll see all of my social media stuff and links to all of my other socials, including the Twitter and the Instagram, and all of those streaming locations are on the description. If you're on Twitch, go look at the About page, and they're all located in there. Otherwise, they're located underneath this video. If you're watching the video right now, they should be listed in the description of the video. Facebook, I'm not sure. I have to go look and see what Facebook does after the fact. I'm not really sure because I don't sit back and rewatch my videos on Facebook. If you wanted to go back and check a previous video, YouTube is probably the best place to do that because you can go there to my YouTube page, and there is an actual playlist of all the previous live streams. This is actually episode 38, which is crazy for me to think that I've done now. This will be 38 of these things. I stream 3 times a week, and they're usually about 2.5 hours, 2 to 2.5 hours a piece. So, wow, that's a lot of time. It's funny because I go back and look at, what I'm doing project-wise. I'm mostly working on my sewing machine bases, which is not super exciting to everybody. But, if you want to build a box or whatever, it's basically the same thing. But anyway, I go back and look at the amount of time it takes me to construct one of these, and all I have to do is go back and look at the previous episodes, and I can see how far back, and it's like, wow, there's actually, for something that looks super simple, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into these, mainly because of the details that I put into them. It's not just a box. I could make this in like 30 minutes with just basic stuff. I mean, if I just needed a quick box to throw something into, that'd be easy. I mean, okay, maybe 45 minutes. I would do the bottom differently. I would do the joinery probably a little differently. I wouldn't put a center divider in here. I wouldn't put handles in the side. I wouldn't do an engraving in the front. I wouldn't be making this lid right here. So there's a lot of easy, fast ways to make a box, but I'm not making a box. I'm making it's basically a vintage or antique sewing machine base. And I know that seems like a very niche thing to make, and it is really. It's a very niche, however you want to say it. There's not a lot of people making those kind of things, but that's the beauty of making them because I don't have a lot of competition in this space. And that lack of competition allows me to keep my prices higher than if say, I don't know, I was making cutting boards. Cutting boards would be one of those things where, yeah, it would be stupid competition because there's so many people who are making them. Pardon me, I have to reply to this stupid little thing here. It's just going to take me a second here. But yeah, if I was making something along the lines of a cutting board, then yeah, I would have a lot of competition in that space. And that in itself would mean that, my time that I'm putting into the project is even more valuable because now I'm having to keep my prices low enough to compete with all the other people who are making them, which may not really that may not be enough to satisfy the requirements for me to actually go into that space. So by going into doing something that's very super specialized, it allows me to basically be creative with my choices and to have a very defined user base that has a need for my product and not a lot of suppliers. And that allows me to maintain the price structure that I do. I don't price my stuff like stupid over the top. At least I don't think I do. There are a couple of other people who make these things. And, when I compare my product to their product, my product, I think personally, and I've had other people who've bought my products and other people's products who said my product is superior to theirs, both in craftsmanship and fit and finish and everything else, which is kind of what I strive for. That's why I put the extra time into it. There are people who crank these things out and make kind of sloppy looking bases, and they charge, and they don't finish them either, by the way. They just sell the raw, unfinished, I mean, maybe sanded, but no finish applied to them, no lacquer, no anything. And they're charging almost as much as I do. So, yeah. Now, I've also had people who've stolen my designs or my ideas or borrowed them. I'll be nice and say they borrowed them. Things like my logo. Well, there's not a lot of people doing this, but I have had some people who've made theirs and they've used a laser engraver to engrave a logo onto the front. It is what it is. What do they say? I can't remember what they say about being flattered by people copying you. But anyway, imitation is the highest form of flattery, is what they say. That's what it is. I don't know if I feel flattered or not. Maybe a little ripped off, but that's okay. Because that's one of the things when I first started making these. There was a gentleman who was making them as well, and just I saw his work on Facebook and some other places, and I know somebody who had one of his bases, and his stuff was like works of art. This guy was still is. He doesn't really make them anymore, but he was a cabinet maker by trade, and just his work was just top tier. I mean, these bases that he made were exquisite. They were beautiful, and he would do things like do 3D printing elements that go with his and stuff. I mean, it was just blow my mind stuff. And he had some really clever designs and everything else. I didn't take his designs, so to speak. My wife had one base that she had bought from a gentleman. He passed away, so I'm thinking, okay, his was a nice, sturdy, simple design. I borrowed elements from his. I borrowed elements from the original bases that some of these machines came from. And then I developed my style of how I want to make them along with the lids. They progressed over time. They weren't always like this. I've made changes over time. I made changes how I do some of the processes. Like these handles, I used to do these on the router table, and now I do all these on my CNC machine. And my lids that we're going to be working on today, I didn't used to make this rabbet cut so that they would fit in and be flush. They used to actually sit on the surface. And I just found that over time I developed this style, and if I see one of my bases in the wild, I know it's my base because there's enough of me and my design choices in there to set it apart from the others. But like I said, there's not a lot of people making these things, and now my pricing is based on how much time it takes me to make them, the type of wood that I'm using, because wood is expensive, but some wood's more expensive than others. Like the quarter sawn white oak has gone through the roof lately. It's almost as expensive as walnut. But if I choose to use walnut, if I'm using sapele, as opposed to like just cherry, which is my normal, cherry is much more affordable, even though it's gone up in price too. So all those things, guide me towards the price I'm going to set. And like I said, I'm a little high in my price. I think, in terms of like, if you look at it as just a box, but if you look at it as a pedestal for your baby, for your work of art, sacred antique sewing machine, it's an investment. And so anyway, wow, that's just kind of woo. I do that sometimes. I apologize. So that kind of brings us to today, though, because one of those things that, like I said, sets my bases apart from others are the lids that I make for them. And because I don't do storage compartments on all of them, I have one behind me, so sitting back there on the table, that is going to be just the base with no compartment. Usually, if I don't have a long piece of wood, if I got a couple of shorter pieces of wood, I'll opt for the no storage compartment. So it's kind of dictated by what I've got in the way of wood. But anyway, when I do have storage compartments, these are my best sellers. So this would be my like my best seller right here, which is the logo with a storage compartment on a full-size base. I sell those in my sleep. I mean, if I could make 100 of them, I could sell 100 of them. They go really quickly. But one of the things we do when we make this base is we put a rabbet cut in here. We need to make flush fitting lids. That's one of the things that I really think sets mine apart from others, is that my lids are flush. If you're here, I'm grabbing all kinds of pieces of wood. If you were here last week, or not last week? No, if you were here on Monday, we talked about some of the wood choices for making lids, and about book matching. If we don't have wood that's wide enough, or if we want to go for a certain effect, like this is a piece of cherry right here, and this cherry has a really nice grain pattern. So I don't have any problem using this as a lid for one of the cherry bases. But I didn't have wide enough wood for like these white oak, so I just took 2 pieces of wood and put them together. I can also do something called book matching, which is where you take a sort of a wider piece of wood, and then you cut it down the middle and you split it open like this and glue it. And then the pattern of the grain comes together in such that it's really decorative, and that's called book matching, because it's like a book and then you're matching it. So book matching. I do have one piece of book matched material that we glued up. Let me go ahead and grab these because we might as well get started. So I'm going to walk off camera for just a second and grab this one. This is a piece of maple that we split right here. And so it's in the clamps here because we were gluing these 2 panels together. So let me easily take these apart here without knocking everything over. There we go. So this panel right here, I'll set these aside for a minute. That panel right there is a book match panel. And I don't know how easy it is for you to see the book match pattern in there. I'm gonna try to tilt it around. So you can sort of see how it kind of makes a cathedral-y thing, and do it this way. I don't know if you can see it better with this camera. So anyway, this is a book match right here. So I split it and then put the pieces together, and it makes this really cool pattern. So what we'll do is cut a lid out of this middle section right here, and that will give us a really cool looking lid for one of the bases. I actually have a figured maple base that this will look beautiful on top of. So book matched on this one. The sapele boxes that I'm making are bases. I did not have a suitable large piece of sapele to cut in half to make a book match or anything on those. So I just took some long pieces of sapele right here, because I have, how many sapele? 1, 2, I've got 2 sapele bases, and I didn't have enough long pieces to make one together. So I've got these 2. These are 2 different panels right here, glue ups, one here and one here. So I've got 2 panel glue ups right here. Get this down, set it down here. I don't want it to crash into my coffee cup. And then this one right here. And there's 2 of them, so there we go. All right, so I've got these 2 panels right here that I just took some leftover stock that I had. This stuff, you see the writing and stuff on here. That was basically to say, hey, don't use these. They're not thick enough, because they were, for whatever reason, when they were factory milled, the boards got a little slim. So these were less than 3/4 of an inch, and all of my bases are 3/4 of an inch thick. So I couldn't use these for the any of the sides or anything. But I try not to throw away my wood because I can still use these for making a lid. So I tried to match up some grain areas on here where if you put them together, I will make a lid out of this. If I have to do a seam like this on a lid, instead of using just one solid piece of wood, I will try to put that seam right up the middle so at least it kind of has some sort of a symmetry and balance to it. I don't just have that like off to the side or anything. Here's another piece right here. This is fairly straight grain running up through here. It's not going to be like the most decorative or beautiful, but it's matching. It matches the wood species. So that in itself is kind of important. So I try to make them out of the same wood species, unless I'm going for something. I haven't done this, but maybe I could, is make a, like if I used something like a, hang on a second, let me show you. I don't think I have one here, but if I did something like a dovetail joint, which this is dovetails right here. So I've done these on some bases where, let me get this camera right here. So you can see I've got, can you see that? There you go. So I've got dovetails on here, right? And what I've done is on some bases of like I'll use, I don't know, walnut on this side and maybe like a maple, which is really contrasting to the walnut, right? So if I get two different contrasting woods, which looks awesome with a dovetail joint, by the way, you can see how just the same species and how that really pops and looks so different. So anyway, if I use something like this with a dovetail joint, then I might go for a contrasting piece of wood, a contrasting color for the lid, because then it wouldn't really matter. It matches something on there. But like I wouldn't use something that was totally unrelated in terms of making a lid. Like I wouldn't use a red oak on a white oak base, because red oak and white oak are two very different looking woods. And they're not red and white, by the way. That has to do with like the bark and the leaves. It has nothing to do with the color of the wood. In fact, red oak is actually lighter colored wood than white oak is. I can show you that right here. Actually, I have a piece of, oh, right here. So this, I know, off on a tangent again, but you know, it came up. We got time, right? So this is a piece of red oak. This is white oak right here. So if you look at these two woods, you can see that the red oak is much lighter in color than the white oak. You would think it would be the other way around, right? But it's not. The red oak is much lighter. This is also quarter sawn red oak. I got a deal on this board and it's kind of cool. I need to do another base out of this. I got a whole bunch of it sitting over here. So I should do another red oak base. Kind of cool looking. They're when you stain them and stuff, because it's quarter sawn, it's got these really, really open pore structures in here. And it makes for some very interesting looking stain and finish. But it also has these great, I don't know if you can see them in there, there's great medullary rays in there. And so the medullary rays kind of stretch through and make these patterns and stuff. So really cool. But anyway, that's red oak and white oak. And I would never use, like I said, I would never use that red oak. I wouldn't just say, oh, well, this is big enough and make a lid for the white oak, because it just would not go. It would just look weird. Like, oh, here was an extra piece of something and let me just throw it in there. It would have no place there. If I made, like if I did two of the ends, did a contrasting kind of thing where I use red oak and white oak, like I said, you know, with the dovetails, okay, that might work. But even then, I don't think it's enough contrast. When I do contrasting, I want like heavy contrast, like maple and walnut. That's a heavy contrast, like maple and any other wood, basically, because maple is super light. So, although maple and the red oak probably not good together. But like I could do a maple and sapele. I mean, there's enough contrast there that would look kind of cool if I did something like that. Anyway, once again, I cannot stay on track today. Speaking of staying on track, you also on my computer, I have all the chat windows open. So if you stop in, please say hi. Throw me a note up there. I don't monitor this 100% of the time, but I do check it periodically. So if you do write something in there and I don't respond right away, not ignoring you, just haven't seen it yet, but I will respond. So if you have a question, comment, criticism, well, be nice, but whatever, just let me know. All right, so here's the deal. We need lids. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bases that need lids. This lid exclusively is going to be used for, or this piece of wood exclusively goes to the lid to the maple. But I also need 2 cherries, 2 oak, and 2 sapele. So the sapeles are going to come out of these 2 boards right here. The oak, come here. The oak's coming out of these 2 boards right here. So these have been glued up, and we'll make those. These are not glue ups. These are solid panels. I actually did a resaw on this. So I could, you could do a book match like on that. If I just had one, I might do some like crazy book matching or something like that. But anyway, I'm not. I'm going to use each one of these is going to be its own panel, or each lid. My mouth doesn't work. So that's 2, 4, 6, 7. So there's all 7 of the pieces of wood that we need to make these. So now that we've got the pieces of wood, we need to start getting them in the exact shapes that they're going to need to be in to fit into these bases, because these bases, even though they're similar in size, I size these to fit as well as possible. And then they will be flattened down and then a hand plane used to take them right down so they're flush with the rest of the base. So let's start with something really easy, which is these cherry ones, because they are already, I don't have to center anything. See, all these other ones where they have a center line or a glue line, that glue line has to go in the middle. These don't have to. These I can just cut it to fit and we're done. So let's find a cherry base here and start doing some measuring. So here's one right here. So here's a cherry base. I need to measure my opening because that dictates, obviously, the cuts I need to make. This one is just a hair, like a hair under 7 5/8. And this way is 4 and, well, it's a little over 3/8. Let's see, it'd be 4, 6, almost 7/16, but not quite. It's like everything wants to be in 30 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to get these close. So 4 5/8. Now the thing I need to make sure is that it's easier if I've got a straight edge to work off of to start. And then I start squaring up these sides right here. So like that is not square. I've got space in between there. And let me see if this one's square. Nope. So nothing's square on this thing. Nothing. Although I do have a very flat edge. So this edge, I think both these edges are flat. So that's perfectly flat. That's perfectly flat. So all I need to do is figure out which side I need to start on to get a flat edge. I'm going to just take this, put it against here, and then draw a line, a cut line. We're going to take these over to the compound miter saw because that gives me a nice square cut, 90 degrees to my long side here. So we will trim that up and get one side to a 90-degree corner right here. Then we can measure down and get the length, because we can do that on the saw too. I'm going to try to, oh my gosh. All right, I think I need to take this. I hope it's not spam. Hang on just one second. Yeah, I'm going to pause you. Okay. Kind of needed to, it's like most of those calls that come in are spam, but I kind of saw that that one was not spam. That's my new eyeglasses are ready for pickup. Woohoo! That's exciting. So I'll be doing that after the show for certain. Because if you weren't aware, like these are like, whoop, they're wonky and broken and scratched. And I had a, a trip and fall incident a few weeks ago and these hit the asphalt and got scratched, and like I got a cut in my eye, and it was just a big ugly thing. Anyway, but that's cool. I'd like to get my new glasses. That will be excellent. I have these, so my distance vision is fine, but I run these, they're progressives because my reading needs to be done. So they basically just do a touch of correction on the distance just to make it like nice and crisp. And then they, actually, you know what? Well, we're okay. And then they give me my reading glasses. Whoops! But they're not bifocals, which nobody wants to run around with bifocals. So they're not bifocals, which is cool. All right, let me just get this edge cut down here. All right, I'm gonna get some dust collection. I didn't do this the other day, and I was sorry I did not. It's like, oh, I'm just making one quick cut. I don't need dust collection. Yeah, I did. It's amazing how much dust this thing spits out. So dust collection, always a good thing, even if it's inefficient, which it is on here. This is not a very efficient dust collection system on this. That's my biggest gripe about this particular saw. But then again, there's only one saw that I know of that has good dust collection. And that is a Festool. And I'm not buying a Festool saw because, well, I just can't afford one. You know. All right, let's get this edge squared up here first. I think we're plugged in. I'm gonna turn the air on. Let's do this. Okay, so I now have a square edge here to work with. So right here and here, these are square. So if I put my square on here and lower this down, it's beautiful. All right, so now I can actually take a measurement off of this edge down to here and see exactly what we need to get to. I'll probably take these off my head for the moment, like that. So we need to see what we need to get to for a measurement to come across here for the length. So like I said, this was, I mean, it's so close to 5/8. I mean, so close, but just a hair under 5/8. I mean, I'm really thinking I want to go 5/8 on this thing. And I'm really close to that. I mean, I was really pretty good with the measurement on this. So I'm going to put this right there. Now the thing is, and I've said this before, I would rather make that cut a little long than too short. Once it's too short, I'm just kind of hosed. So I would much rather have that be too long, and then I can always shorten it. But I'm going to draw my line across here, and that's going to get me my measurement right here. I'm just going to trim this off, and then I should have the width there. I might have to take it down just a hair, but like I said, I can dial that in after the fact. I would rather just kind of what they call sneak up on it. So let's go be sneaky, shall we? Hopefully you can see me over here at the saw. I mean, this is not the most exciting of cutting. Wow, my mailman is here already. They have just been earlier and earlier. So, I mean, I just cut a very thin piece off the edge of that. So scrap pile you go. Now what I'm going to do is just kind of test fit that in here and see. And as I predicted, it is just a hair too long. But now I can go in and dial this in appropriately. So I'm going to go and just knock a little bit off of here. And, oh, hydrate. So let's take a little bit more off of here. And I'm just going to knock the fuzzies off of here just so I can check that. So let's see here. All right. So there we go. I mean, if it has just a tiny bit of movement in there, that's okay. It doesn't have to be, I don't want it to be sucked in vacuum fit. It's okay if I have like a 30-second or so of space, because if you think about it, I'm going to be putting finish on here and it'll be lacquer built up on both edges. So really it doesn't, you have to allow a little bit of space. Otherwise it won't fit once you put the finish on it. So that's okay. So this one is done. We just need to, so I'm going to draw a little corner thing right here. So I know that this is my 90-degree corner right here. So when I put this through the table saw, I will run it through with this edge. This is the edge I use to make those cuts. I will put it through so this edge is against the fence, and then it'll get cut down this way. Because these are nice and square. All right, the other thing I need to do, and I'm going to write this on here, because I have two of these and they look exactly the same. This is being cut for this base. I want to make sure that I'm getting, so I'm just going to put like a number, like a letter A on here, and I'm going to write an A in the corner over here, just really easy. It'll get sanded off later, but that lets me know that this goes with this particular base, because if I try to, if I get them confused, it may not fit into this base right here. So I want to keep them separated to the point where I'm getting individual measurements and custom fitting them for their particular bases. Now here, same thing probably. I have no square corners on here at all. Everything's messed up. Yeah, it's all just goofy. So I need to square this up first. I'm going to go over here and square up one side of this. And then we can do some measurements, but I think this is about the same. Let's see what we got here. This is actually longer than 7 5/8. So that's why I was saying about you don't want to get these messed up. This one's actually almost a 16th longer than the last one. So let us start cutting. This one, right, exactly flat, but close to it. All right, let's try that. Yeah. All right, I have my flat edge here, my square corner. So we're all good for that. I'm just gonna check things here. Very nice. See how that works there. That looks very nice. Now I'm gonna make a measurement on here again just to double check that. And then we will transfer a line onto this. And using this as my edge, I'm gonna make my corner mark here so I understand where my edge is. I'm gonna draw this line on the back here, so it's easier for me to get to it that way. Okay, so 7 5/8, easily 7 5/8, just a hair over 7 5/8. I'm going to take this up and make it a full 16th over that. I think that would probably be the, well, let's see, this way. Hang on a second. Let me see what I did here. This is my square corner. No, that is not my square corner. See, I drew my corner in the wrong side. That's why it pays to double check on things. There's my square corner right here. So I do not want to cut off of this end. I want to leave this end the way it is, and I want to cut off of the unsquare end, which means when I put this down, I need to cut right over here. So I'm going to measure this way, put a line on here. The only problem I have is that this is kind of charred from my saw. So, woo, this is very close to, let's see, 7, there's 5/8. Wow, I almost didn't have enough here. Almost. Very close. All right, and this is my square side, so I'm going to run this line across here. And that should give us exactly, let me just measure this again. That should give us exactly the distance we need. All right, we'll go make a cut on this one. Putting that square edge against the fence here. That's the key. And then we're just going to line this up so that my saw just hits that pencil line. All right, that hopefully did exactly what we wanted. Just clean that edge off there. Now we can check it in the pocket here. And ooh, nicely done. Fits really well. Okay. So now we have 2 square edges on here that I can use, and I know that they're square. And I'm just going to mark it over here because that way when I get ready to put this on the table saw to cut the width, I know which one's which. So I'm just going to letter this one as a B, just, you know, for reference. Even though I've got them set inside there, once I start cutting, I may pull them out of the bases, in which case it could get confusing. So better to label them and not need to worry about it than to not label them and then get them confused and then we got bigger problems. So, oh, I need to take those off my head because they're just pressing on my skull. All right, so now what we need to do is figure out, you know, we've got these other pieces of wood here. We need to start using these as things. Now, I've got a little bit of glue on the bottom of this one. I'm going to grab my little block plane here and just see if I can't shave that glue off a little bit. It's not much, but I just want these to rest flat. So I'm just going to try to do like that and get any squeeze off of that seam there. Squeeze off, squeeze out. That's what I meant to say. They're pretty flat on here. So just getting those little, there we go. Little bits of glue off of there, that helps to keep this nice and flush. So when I put it onto the saw over there, that it doesn't rock. So we need to move over here to one of the oak ones. Well, actually, I don't know the width yet. I'm going to make one of these sides square. I believe I'm going to go with this edge right here because that looks pretty flat. Although, let's see this side. I mean, both of these are very flat. Actually, this side, I like this side better. So there you go. But I don't have a square edge. These are misjointed and everything else. They should be long enough. I'm going to need almost 7 5/8 as well. And whoo, this is going to be really close here, but I'm going to get it. I'm not going to chop. I'm only going to cut off just as little as I can to keep this a square edge, but not take too much off that I lose what I need for this lid. So I think I'll say the word "so" about 1,000 more times today, if that's okay with you. That's my own personal pet peeve for myself, is that I say that word way too much. It's just one of those words that tends to get used a lot, in conversation. Luckily, I don't say the word like, it was like, the thing where like, and it's like, oh, that drives me nuts. But me saying the word so after I'd like watched one of my streams, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much I said that word. All right, let's go square up a side here and get my ears again. And once we get this side squared, we'll do another measurement and we'll just keep this process up. Now these are really wide, so these are gonna have to be trimmed to width a little differently than the ones we just did. I also might need to extend this bed out. So I've got this cool little radial arm thing that moves back and forth because these are wider pieces of wood. All right, let's go. Okay, got that looking good. And we now have my square edge, so I'm going to reference that just so I know which one was my cutting, my reference edge, which was this one. Now we can go over here and make a mark based on the length of this, which was just a hair under 7 5/8. Nice straight edge. Let's go ahead and mark 7 5/8. See, I've got, whew, yeah, about an eighth of an inch to spare on this board right here, which is kind of funny. So I'm going to mark it right there at 7 5/8. And then, which one was my flat edge? Right here. Draw this all the way up here. Reference line there. And then I'm going to measure this one more time just to ensure that I did in fact get that right, and I did. So there we go. All right, let's go make another cut. See if we got this close enough. I didn't push the saw all the way through the cut. There was just a little triangle of wood left down there, so I had to do that again. This stuff really likes to kind of splinter up on the edges of the cuts, so I'm just kind of running it that way. Let's measure. I think I did pretty good here. Put it in the base, and it's just a hair long, so we're going to go back over and just do a quick trim up on here, shave off just a little bit. Just a little bit. A little bit more. Think we got it that time. Because it's a wide piece of wood, it's a little harder to get those trimming edges done there, but yeah, that looks good. It's looks to be good. All right. Yeah, like I said, just kind of a little difficult sometimes. Let's draw this down here. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I'm just going to make an A on here. Just so that I know. We'll make an A right here. Just so I know which one goes with which, because we've got another one, exactly the same thing right here. I'm going to go trim this up, get a square edge on here. Let me see if I've got any. This is okay. This is nice and flat on here. So we're all right. I don't have to get the plane out here. And that's pretty flat across the bottom right there. So I want to make sure that's flat. So let me go ahead and get one edge square here, and then we'll do a measurement on that next base and see what we can do about getting that one cut. So I'm just going to run this right here. I'm only cutting off as much as I need to get this squared up. Alrighty then. Get rid of those little splinter things because they are not fun. I'd rather get them off here with sandpaper than get them out of my finger with tweezers. That is for sure. All right, here's my reference corner. I'm gonna get my next base, which is this one right here. And let's measure this one to see what the length is. This one's like exactly 7 5/8. So let's make a mark. Actually, keep forgetting I have to cut it. So when I make this cut right here, this is my reference side. But this is a very rough side of the board here. This is not flat. There's nothing flat about this side right here at all. You can see it. So I can't put this side down to make the cut, so I won't draw my other line on here. I need to draw that line on this side so that this flat side goes on the bottom and then pushes that flat edge against the fence. So I need to draw on the rough side whenever I do this. And that's why you'll see me kind of flipping these boards around, because I have to keep all that straight in my head. All right, right there. And then reference side is here. I'm going to use my reference side as the side that I put this square against. All right. Now let's check that. Yep. Looks good. I think. 7 5/8. No. Kind of trailed off a little bit here. Okay. Now I can put this in and we can get that cut done. Honestly, it's cuts like this that are the reason I got that saw. I mean, not necessarily that one, but a saw that actually has more capacity. My old saw was not bad, but it was not a sliding saw. So I did not have that extra capacity width. So now I have width to do this. I mean, this is not that huge. This is like a 6.5 inch, but my other one only did 6-inch wide boards. So I didn't have this capacity. I can do very wide boards on that and get some really nice cuts on there. Some people may say it's a luxury, but it's a luxury I am glad I have. All right, let's check this one. Oh, sweet. We're in good shape. All right, this one's done. Just draw my B on here. B. Sure, you mark your letters. All right, we've got 4 of these marked now for length. because that's where, I think that's where we need to make sure that we're looking good. This one right here is going to be weird for me. I hope these are square. Gotta see something here. I'm hoping these are the same width all the way down. Like that's 5 1/4. So this is almost 10 5/8. This is almost 10 5/8. Because I want to keep this seam going down the middle, but I'm assuming that this cut right here is the same. It's not angled or anything. That would be really weird. Anyway, should I do this one now? What the hell? Let's do this one now. I'm going to get rid of all of this stuff down here. This stuff down here where the knot was, we're going to get rid of all that. This is pretty flat right here. Make sure there's no glaring glue globs or anything on here. I think we're pretty good. I did a pretty good job on gluing this flat, so I'm pretty happy about that. So it glued up pretty flat. There's a little, I mean, just a little bit of a gap inconsistency. Actually, right here. Let's see if I can shave this part down. Just a little bit. There we go. I just want this to be pretty consistent through here so that when it sits on there, it's as flat as can be. All right, which end should I cut? I'm trying to figure out which part. I mean, it's a long compartment here, and obviously I only need about 7.5 inches of that. This thing's so light. This is the maple base. And just to verify my width here, yeah, 7 5/8. So how much of this 7 5/8 do I really, do I need, do I want? You know, do I need to get rid of some of this? Is some of this wood better than others? I'm going to keep it fairly close to this knot. I think I'm going to cut this off like right up. I don't know if you can see this line, but I drew a line right here. And I think I'm going to cut this off and lose all of this wood here and try to keep as much as I can right through this section, because to me that's the prettiest. So yeah, let's work with that. And then we'll do some measuring. But that's just such a pretty piece of wood. I just look at it and I'm like, wow, it's so nice. Once again, this is where the really long saw comes in handy, because I have to come all the way through here. That's a very long piece of wood. So, you know, if I had a shorter saw reach, I would be using a different method to cut this. But I have this, and that's what we'll use. All right. We got rid of this little section right here, which, you know, no longer needed. How strong is that glue joint right there? That's pretty darn strong. The wood broke, not my glue joint right there. So that makes me happy. If the wood breaks before my glue joint, we're doing something right. All right, I think did I cut this that way? Yeah. I used this as my reference, I believe. Although, let me check this one. I just want the straightest, flattest one. This is gonna be my reference edge because this is really super straight and flat. And like I said, I need to at least have one reference edge to run through the saw. This is gonna get, both of these sides are gonna get cut down, right? I'm gonna cut some off of this side and some off of this side, but I need to start somewhere. So this will be my reference edge running through the saw. This is gonna go against the fence because that's where the straight edge is there. And this is a very 90-degree cut to that side. So I think we're in good shape. All right, lengthwise now, let me verify this again. 7 5/8. It's actually just a hair under 7 5/8. Reference side is here. Let's measure 7 5/8. Minus just a hair. 5/8 minus just a hair. All right. And now, reference corner there. Let's draw a line. Now this is hard because my ruler does not extend all the way across, but I'll get a good starting line here. And even though it doesn't extend all the way across the face of the wood, once I get my saw lined up, it doesn't really matter. Let me just measure this again. Just there we go. All right, let's go cut this down. And then we will have at least the length of this. This little piece excites me more than I can even explain. It's just so pretty. All right, I'm going to get this as bang on as possible here because I want to cut the line not to the right of the line. I want it to actually cut right on that pencil line. Hopefully that is wide enough. Check that. Ooh, we are good. We are good. Okay. This one's good. I don't need to letter this one because obviously it's the only maple I have. Now we can get on to the Sapilis. Not bad. Where's my flattest parts here? Problem with this stuff is it's just, I don't want to chip. The Sapili stuff is kind of nasty in the way that it can chip. So I'm trying to be careful with it and just try to get rid of any glue that's going to interfere with this being flat. Which is my flattest side? This might be my flat side right here. But I've got it's really weird. I've got a really weird kind of a area right here. You can see it. It's not, that's lumber mill saw. It slopes down. But let me cut off of this edge right here and then we'll go from there. I think that'll be okay. This is flat enough on the bottom here. I think we'll be all right. And that's what I'm trying to do is just make sure I've got a flat part for this part of the bed and then a straight edge here, which I believe I do have. Okay, we cut a nice square edge. I used this as my reference face against the fence. So we're gonna put our little reference mark on here, just so I know which is my square 90-degree corner, right here. So right there is my nice square 90-degree corner. And we can now measure this. Let me get a Sapili box here. We need one of these. I have to rearrange some of this stuff. We're going to have to move everything in a minute anyway because I'm going to need to use the table saw, so it doesn't really matter. Just kind of for convenience sake, it's nice to have the box sitting here. All right, this is actually shy of 7 5/8. Just a hair shy of 7 5/8. Let's go ahead and get that measured out here. Now this rough cut portion doesn't matter because we're going to be flattening these things down after the fact. And so all that's going to go away. These things are only going to be 1/4 of an inch thick by the time we're done. So that part doesn't really matter. I believe I said right there. And reference corner there. But yeah, you know, the big thing right now is just getting these things fitted. And then once we get them fitted, then we'll start flattening them. The flattening comes in 2 different parts. Part of it will be flattened on the jointer just because it's easier. And then part of it will be flattened using a hand plane. Once I get down to the nitty gritty closeness of it, because I have more control with the hand plane, and we will be actually flattening them in place in the actual bases themselves. I do love the smell of sapele when it gets cut. It's a different smell. I don't know how to explain it. Almost like a spice. But yeah. One thing to note on here is that when I glue these things together, you want your boards kind of going in. You want your curl going in like opposite directions so that they kind of counteract each other. So I believe it's like this one's going up and this one's going down. But it can be difficult depending on the wood. Let's see if I got the width here. Oh, just a hair long. Just a hair. We need to go over and just trim this up just a tiny bit. Okay, we got that one good. Get my reference corners here. Call this one A. A up here. All right, last one. This one's all over the board. It's this is my flat side right here, so I'm just going to see if I can get any glue off of here that needs to come off without tearing any of the wood up. I tried to get one reference face and then glue it as flat as I could when I set the clamps. And I think I got a pretty good edge here, so not a lot of discrepancy between the two. On this side, not so much. There's definitely a difference over here, especially because this one has some snipe from a planer and some other stuff. But that's okay. This is flat, and this is my reference, so this will go against the. This will definitely go against the fence. So let me go ahead and cut this edge off here. Just make sure this edge is straight. Yeah, it's very straight. All right. This last one down, we can move over to the table saw. All right, reference corner right here. And let's get our last measurement, which would be this base over here. And this one, 7 5/8. This one's like exactly 7 5/8. So what? Why am I getting all these notifications? I don't care. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, nothing important. Nothing as important as what I'm doing right now. What time is it? 12:04. Need to hop into the house for just a moment as soon as we get this done, and make sure my son is moving. You're like, but it's 12 o'clock. I know, that's the way he is. Actually, you know what? We do that now. so I don't have to be disturbed in a minute. So I'm gonna do a break real quick. I'll be right back. Oh my, kids these days. He's actually not even a kid anymore. He's in his 20s. But whatever. Oh, yeah, so I did that wrong. So if you recall, I need to make that mark on this side. And this is going to be my reference. So I'm going to have to got to redo this, rethink this. 7 5/8 on here is what I need. Because I don't want to use this side down. Man, it's rough wood on this side. I'm just going to kind of draw this out here, but there we go. All right. Just double check this. Should be good. And let's go make our last, hopefully our last cut on the miter saw over here, or as I like to call him, Old Dusty. Old Dusty. Making lots of man glitter. I believe we're good right there. Okay. Give that a quick cleanup. Check it for size. All righty. We're good. We are good to go, which means it's now time to move over to the table saw where we will now we cut these to length. Now we need to cut them to width. That can be a little trickier because the ones that have the center cut or the center lines in them where we need that to be right in the middle of the cut, that gets a little trickier in how we do that and how we determine where those lines are. The ones that are the easiest, once again, are the cherry because those are just big flat pieces of wood. We're just going to cut them to the width and we're good to go on those. We might start with those. Let's start with the easy ones, shall we? All right, I'm going to put this in the box here. Try to label it. So this was here. This is B and B. All right. Put this over here. Then we will dig out those cherry ones. Unfortunately, they're at the bottom. So let me rearrange some things here. And then I should have a camera set up for the table saw. I can leave these over here, actually. Let's see if I've got a camera number 3. There we go. Number 3 was set up there. And I need to do some moving around over here, though, beforehand. So I need to put my saw into its locked position and then bring my dust over here. So here, won't leave you all alone. I'm going to bring the dust over and hook it into the back of the saw so that it doesn't make a mess. And we're going to grab our remote, put it over here. And then what else do we need here? Got my gripper. Always like to have my gripper. Got my ears. And we need power. And then we will be ready to roll. And you know what else is, I'm going to get this measuring tape and my pencil and my square and just have them handy in case we need them, because we might need them. All right, let's power up the saw here, and then we will, all right, we can move to this side. Let me change your view. There you go. Now you're on my side of the fence here, so we could look at these. I'm going to just adjust my blade depth for these cuts. These are all different thicknesses, so I will be doing, you know, that's what I was missing. One light bulb, there we go. I'm interested in buying one of my bases with the covered side bin. People sending me messages going, hey, can I buy one? You can buy one, but you have to wait till they're done. And they're not done for a little bit, so usually what I tell people, I don't do special orders anymore. I used to, and it started driving me crazy. This is not super flat. I'm gonna go flatten this really quickly over on the jointer, because if you look on here, I've got a lot of rocking and such, and I want this to be a flat surface here. And I'm gonna run this across the jointer just once and see if I can't, well, maybe more than once, and see if I can't get this to be flattened out. So I'm gonna draw some lines on here. All these lines should disappear when this thing is flat. Hopefully not less than 1/4 of an inch. I don't know if I've got anything set up here. We go. All right. Just so you can watch the excitement of everything, we'll switch cameras for you. And I'm going to be over here at the jointer. Get a good view of that? Yeah, you do. So the jointer has 2 beds. It has an in-feed and an out-feed bed. The in-feed bed you can lower or raise, and then the blade cuts off and makes it flush with the outgoing table. So if you want to take a deeper cut, you lower the bed. You want to take a really fine cut, you raise the bed, and it'll pass over the blade right here in the middle, and then out on but this makes a reference surface, but you're only getting one reference surface. You can't do both sides necessarily like this. All right, I need my ears, and I need a push pad, which I've got right here. Let's go ahead, and hopefully this is going to be going in the right direction, because wood grain dependent and all that good stuff. It'll chip out that way. Let me turn it around here. Let me just show you what I'm working towards here. So this side now is clean. All the pencil mark is removed. There's still pencil mark up on this end right here, which means that I need to keep going until this is clean all the way across. And I don't know if you can see that or not, but it is just a hair thinner on this end than this end. So this will get us really close. So let me go ahead and finish this up. And then that gives me a nice reference surface when I run that across the cast iron table over here on the table saw. All right, now we have a flat surface. You can see that is all the pencil has been removed. So now we can use this on the table saw and it'll fit flat on here. So let's go ahead and switch back over, pardon me, to the table saw. And now I have a very flat, stable surface. Before it was rocking and everything else, and I really didn't want to send this through the blade without this being flat, so it would be a nice stable surface to run this through. All right, this one, actually I lost my lettering on here though, so this is B, need to B, and we need to figure out how wide this is now. So we're just going to come over here and measure the width on here. And this one is 7/16, 4 7/16. So let's set this up. I'm going to get it close here. 2, 4, 6, 7/16. And let me check that. Should get me right there where I need to be. Let me, find the tap method to be the best way to adjust the fence. You just kind of tap it in place here. That's a hair under what I need to be. I need to be just a hair back. Just give it a light wrap with the knuckle. And I always lock it down because it tends to shift it just a hair. Always tends to just shift a hair when you do that. 2, 4, 6, 7/16. All right. Let's do it. Get my, that's good. Let's lift it all the way up. All right, let's make a cut. And then we just do a little test just like we did last time just to see if it fits in here. You can see that I can't check the whole width because it's got rounded corners, but I can check each side, and that does a pretty good job of lining up in there. So we'll call that one done. We'll move on to this next one. And I probably will do the same thing on here. Let me check this face. Now this face is actually much flatter. So I don't anticipate, yeah, see this face is very flat on here. I don't have to make any of the corrections like I did on that one. If you remember, this board was actually cut in half. So that first one was not a very flat surface, but this side is. So I don't have to go to the jointer on this one. I just need to figure out the width that I need on here. Just like that last one is, I think it'll be exactly the same. 2, 4, 6, 7. It's just a hair longer than, get out of here, a hair wider than that. So I'm going to just make this just a little wider on my cut here. There we go. Okay, and then I also want to see that I'm going to clear this. Yeah, so I'm going to lower this blade down just a bit. Okay, my reference edge right here, that goes against the table saw fence, and let's make a cut. Right, goes in here, and that fits really nicely. All right, that unfortunately is the end of the easy ones, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it. I'm going to move these out of the way for the moment. Set them over here on the bandsaw. Get rid of the scrap. Now we have to move to the slightly harder ones. So I've got something like this, right? And I need to get this line down the middle. And there's a couple of different ways to do this. You leaving? Oh, okay. Yeah. This one? Okay. There you go. All righty. Have a good day. All right. So this one, it's the sun. This one is, I need to measure equally on both sides. I actually have a tool. Of course I do. That does this for me. This is an interesting little tool right here. This is made by Woodpecker. It's called the standard scale, but it's also a center scale. So along here, it measures from 0 to 24 inches, right? So along this side, 0 here, 24 down here. But on this side of the scale, it measures from 0 to 12 and 0 to 12. So I have a center line, and I can measure equally across there to get measurements from a center line. So I have a center line on here, so I know exactly where this line goes. Well, let me do it this way because it's flatter here. So I know exactly where my center line is here. I can put the 0 here, and if I know that this needs to be like, we'll say 4.5 inches, right? I can mark 2 1/4 here, 2 1/4 here, and know exactly how far that needs to go on here. That's a very cool tool to have. I'm just going to tell you right now. Was it cheap? No, because it's made by Woodpecker. So you know it wasn't cheap. But I do a lot of guitar stuff as well. You wouldn't know it from this channel, but I do. And center lines on guitars are very important. And so you want to make sure you have good center lines. All right, this is not what I need to be measuring. I need to be measuring this way. So turn this, measure the width now. Of course, this is not going to be exactly what I want. Because it's a 16th, which means I need to go to 30 seconds, and I don't have 30 seconds on there. So that makes it fun. This is 4 and measure in different places here just to make sure. Yeah, pretty much all the same. 2, 4, except 4 and 7/16. And so math not being, my strong suit, I have my fractions calculator. So I'm going to say 4 and 7/16, right? Divided by 2 is 2 and 7/32, of course. And now the reason I need to know that is because that tells me the width. So this is kind of like a 2-part process. So I go over here and I got to find 2 and 7/32, which is like, I'll put this on the center line, because I need to know how much to cut off of a side, and until I figure out where that 2 and 7/32 line is, I won't know how much to cut off. And that's why, I'm going to move this over here so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm putting my 0 right on the seam, and then I'm going to get my pencil here, and I'm going to do 1, 2, get a nice long lead here, and then that's 2, 4, 6, 7/32. So that's basically between 3/16 and 4/16. But I'm going to put that line right here. Okay. And that line, now I can measure that line. I'm going to make that line right here, put a pencil mark on there. I'm going to measure this line across the width of this. Let me do it this way, get more meat on it. And then I can measure how much wood is left on the edge here. So there's that line on there. Hopefully you can see, right there's that line. So this to here should be 2 and 7/32. And I'm gonna measure that one more time just to make sure that I did that right. So 0 mark on the seam. There, 1, 2, and 2, 4, 6, 7/32. Now, if I do the same thing over here, Okay, I can double check by measuring the length of those marks. I'm going to put a mark on this side. I'm going to draw this one down same way. Now I've got a mark on both sides of that seam. This is the area that I want. Now what I can do is just get a measurement of this and make sure that that's measuring exactly what I need, which it appears to be. 2, 4, 6. Yeah, so I need to cut outside that line. So now what I need to do is figure out how much of this I need to cut off. So I'm going to cut off 3 1/16 inches off of this side. Yep, 1, 2, 3 1/16. This is, like I said, this is where it gets tricky because I want that line exactly in the center. All right, is this high enough? It is. So 3 1/16. So I'm going to move this in, maybe. Just to 3. I've got a ruler scale on here. It gets me close, and then I kind of just fine tune it with the ruler here. 3 1/16. So I need to bring this out. Right there. That's 3 1/16. This is like pucker time because I can't, once I do this, I can't change it. Now, where was my reference edge? This is my reference edge. I want this edge against, I know this is a nice 90-degree cut right here. I'll put this against here. Hopefully that lines right up with this. In fact, if I put this right up to that line, I can see that it matches up right there. This line matches up with my blade, but it's actually, oh, hang on. So I'm glad I did that. Here's the thing. If I cut it like this, it's going to give me that line to 3 1/16, but it's going to cut into my main piece. I need the outside, I need to measure from the outside of the blade and make that 3 1/16. Oh my goodness. So now I need to lower this by 1/8 of an inch probably. I'm glad I did that. I almost screwed things up. This is where it gets really tricky, and it can be very damaging. All right, so 3 1/16 to the outside of the blade, not the inside of the blade. Right there. And now if I hold this line up to here, that's what we want. All right. That was almost a tragedy right there. I will tell you that right now. Now let me make this here. Yeah, is it too tight? It's a little tight. This way, that's not bad. Let's do it this way. All right. Let's see how we did, shall we? Pucker time. Ooh, we are right on that edge right there. We're right on that pencil line. Now, this is my reference. Now I can measure how far this needs to be, which is 4 1/16, right? Now I can move that over here, or 4 7/16. I mean. But now I can move this all the way over to 4 7/16 and make that cut because I want that cut to be inside of the space from the blade to the fence. So we got a little bit of fudge room here. Let's see here. That should be about right. Now we're going to do 4, and I'm just going to double check it. 2, 4, 6, 7/16. 4 and 2, 4, 6. That's a little wide. We're going to bring this in. Too much. Right there. All right. Now, hopefully, that lines up with my other mark here, and it looks like it does. Now I can turn this way. Let's make this last cut here. Fingers crossed. All right, so we now have this piece, and you can see down the middle is our seam. We did it well. Now let's make sure it fits. I don't know that it fits. Let's check it here. Oh, look at that. Nice, nice fit. Nice fit that way. And almost a little tight up on the edges here. We might have to shave this down just a hair on the edges. Yeah, we might have to just shave off a hair off these edges here, but that's okay. Before I put the roundovers on, we'll shave it down just a hair. But there we go. So that's how we do that center, but it gives us this really nice look now. And you can see that this is all kind of coming together right down this center line here. That center line will go right down the middle of this thing and make it look beautiful. But that's why you have to really pay attention. I almost screwed that one up because you're working with the inside measurement and then the measurement to the outside of the blade. And that's the outside blade measurement's what almost got me on that one. All right, I'm gonna set this one aside with the others because it's done and I don't wanna clutter my workspace any more than I have to. We can move on to, we've got this oak one right here. Same thing. This was a little harder to see because the seam, it's a little more difficult because the grain all runs in the same direction. But that's okay. We'll do what we can here. We need to measure this width right here. Of course, it's going to be less than what we just did, of course. But I'm going to go with that width anyway. It's, geez. Okay, so down here, it's actually just a little bit wider than it is here, but not much. I mean, just a hair, but it is. I'm gonna go with the 7/16 because that gives me the same measurements here, like that 2 and whatever. Take these ears off for a minute because it's getting warm in here. It is another hot day here in Northern Virginia. Hot and humid. All right, I'm going to mark this one to 2 and what did I say? I can't remember what I said now. But wait, 2 and 7/30 seconds. We're going to mark this one to 2 and 7/30 seconds. So I got to put this right on that center line. 1, 2, and 2, 4, 6, 7/30 seconds is right here. Oh, broke my tip. All right. Now, let me draw that line here, and then we can do a measurement. Now, this one not nearly as wide, so we're only going to cut a portion off of this one. Great. Where'd that line go? There it is. We're only cutting a portion off of this one right here. So as before, we were cutting like this much off. Now we're only cutting this little like 1 inch wide section off of here. And we make sure that we are at 2 and, yep. All right, now this width is going to be 15/16. This is my reference side. We're going to cut off 15/16. I need 2 things. I need to first move this up. I need to raise this blade up so that it cuts through. And then we need to bring this all the way over so that I am cutting 15/16 off of here, which should be right about there. But remember, I need to cut to the outside of the blade, not the inside. So we're just going to give this some love taps until we get right to that spot. Almost there. All right, we are there. This is my reference edge. I'm going to turn it over nice and flat. We're going to cut this off. I need to readjust my gripper here so that it doesn't run through the saw blade because I have done that on a couple occasions. It's not fun. Definitely got some cuts up on here, but there we go. All right. Let's make this cut and then we'll go forward with the next one. Turn this around. I don't see any comments, but I just wanted to turn it around just in case anybody had anything that they wanted to say. I didn't want to leave you hanging. All right, now we can go ahead and make our last cut here. We can just get our 4 7/16 measurement out here. And that will put this cut, make sure we get it on the correct side. Is that right? Oh, 4. I'm sorry, that's 3. Yeah, I was like, that seems awfully shallow. Okay, so I'm going to mark on here and measure my 4 7/16 just so I have a reference line on here to use. I'm going to do one thing on here though, just one thing. It's not going to take up much wood, but I want this to be nice and flat and square. It looks like it's not on this edge right here. And I have just a little bit of room from my mark there, so I can do this, but hang on a second. I'm going to run this through the jointer really quick. I'll be right back. Okay. Because I had nice square edges here, but I didn't necessarily have a square edge here. And I wanted this to be really super square. I put this against that fence. It is sucked right up against there. Double checking this again just for my width. So 4 7/16 seems to be the winner. And we're going to measure that again on here. We're 4 7/16. All right, let's make it. Did I draw that line on here? All right, let's make it happen. Here we go. Okay, we're going to check that in the base here for the width, and we are spot on. Excellent. We have the line right down the middle. We've got the nice width. We've got the length dialed in. We are looking good. So really, I'm going to start, some of these I will make a little thinner to start with before I start doing stuff with them, like rounding the edges. I'm going to, once again, put this up here. Okay, let's get to this one and see what we need to measure. This is going pretty well. I'm kind of happy with the progress here. It's just, everything is a step, and it just takes time to make sure you're dialed in. This is the hard ones. These are the ones where, you know, you've got to make sure you've got that spacing right if you want that line to be right up the middle, which I do. All right, let's measure this one. Hopefully it's the exact same. It is. Oh, thank you for being exactly the same. So we will do 2 7/30. Get my center line ruler here. Measure this again. But this is about center line ruler. It just really comes into play. And the nice thing is I line up the 12 on this side and the 0 on this side, and that lets me know I'm nice and square too. It's hard with the straight grain to find that seam though sometimes. All right, right there, 1, 2, and 2, 4, 6, 7, 30. That mark is right there. Okay, and then I need to draw this out so I can measure how far that is from the edge. So that's this line right here. And then we will measure that line, and then we will set the fence up for it. Now that is, oh, just a hair inside of 1 inch, it looks like. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. And I remember I need to go to the outside of my cut here. So let me find a good blade here. I think that's where we want to be. Right there. All right. I'm going to cut my reference edge right here. And make sure my saw is set up right. We're good. All right, let's get moving here. I don't want to go too fast. See, that's the problem. I get into trouble. I get comfortable and then I make mistakes. So being comfortable is not always your friend. Oh yeah, I'm really comfortable making these cuts. Well, that's great until you make the wrong cut and then you've ruined your piece of wood and you have to start all over again. Okay, 7/16, 4 and 7/16, which is what we were working on here. Yes, indeed. It's maybe just a hair less than that, but let's set this up. I mean, here's the thing. When you're talking about a 32nd of an inch, you're going to be really close anyway. So I'm going to just go just a hair inside of 7/16. And I think we'll be good. All right, this side down. It's my reference. We're good here. Last cut on this board. All right. And I have these great little blocks here. Not sure what I would do with those little blocks, burn them, but they're there. All right, let's check this width. That fits. That fits. All right. And then width-wise or lengthwise, good, and we're good. So yeah, aces. We're doing quite well. The last thing we need to do are these two sapilis. I don't anticipate them being any different, any more difficult. Let's go ahead and get a measurement, see what we're working with on this one. This one's a little less, so this one is, of course, we're going to call this 1, 2, 3 16ths. So we need to change my measurement across that center line to something a little different. That's 3/8. I say 4 3/16. It's 4 3/8. 2 4s. Yeah, 3/8, and it's actually, well, on the edges, it's just a tiny bit wider than 3. Oh, why do you have to be that way? Why? All right, hang on. Let's be exact here. 4 and it's a 32nd longer than 3/8. Why? I'm not doing 64ths. I'm just not going to do it. And it is. It's like a 32nd longer. So I'm not doing 64. So we might just fudge this one a little bit. So 3/8. And yeah. 4, 3, and let's get a measurement on this one and do 3/16. It'll be 2 and 3/16. Where's my reference edge? I want my reference edge just over here, which is good. So 2 and 3/16 on here. Okay, that 0 line right up. Get my pencil. 3/16. And then we will strike a line on that mark and then see how far that is from the edge. All right, do another measurement. It's a lot of measuring here. This is, whew, oh my gosh, like a 30-second less than an inch. So 30 seconds. Anybody? All right, well, let's move in an inch here and then we'll make adjustments. Let me get my outside thing here. All right, time to start tapping. Right there. We be done. All right, let me make my depth is good. My corner that was looking good for the cut is right here as my reference. We're going to set this up. Now this one, you notice this one's a little tippy. It's flat, but probably like this way or this way, it has a little bit of a tip to it. Feels like it's flat though. Doesn't really give me too much of an issue here. All right, let's roll. Get this set up right. They just got these last two cuts and then we're in good shape. Come on. I've got some nice blanks here if I wanted to turn some pins. Got some nice pin blanks. All right, now we can go over here, and I had 4 3/8, but just a hair over 4 3/8. So I'm just going to make that, you know what, if it's not exactly in the middle, I'll be okay with that. Let's check the width here. I am just, oof, pretty good. Pretty good. Let's try it and see, shall we? Shall we? There. I think we're good. I'm not gonna see, am I? Still pretty close. So I'm gonna lower this down just a hair. There we go. Okay. Here we go. Ready? This is the last of those cuts, hopefully. That is perfect. Perfect. The hair, nope, it's good. It's good. All right, that one's good. One more to go. One more. Una más. Una más. We're ready to go. And same thing on this one. Pretty flat. It's very flat. Okay. Let's figure out what our width is. And of course it's different. So this one is 2, 4, 6, not quite 7/16. Just a hair over 7/16. So we're going to go with 2, 4, 6. We're going to go with 3/8 on this one, and then we will make it just a hair larger on the cut. It actually off just a little there. Okay. Well, my narrowest portion, I'm going to go with, all right, 4 3/8. So 2 3/16. Let's do that way. Make my center line, do 2 3/16 off the center line here. Running out of space here. All right, let's get this lined up. 2, try to be as exact as possible here. 2 and 3/16 is right here. Oh, love it when I break the pencil edge. 3/16. Sometimes a little brutal on these lead pencils. Okay, right there. Slide this over. All right, let's see what we got for a measurement on the side here. We need to cut that to the outside edge. This is a little wider. So this is 1 1/16 to the outside edge. We'll bring this over. So it's actually going to be right there probably. It's a little, let's go a little wider. There. Looks good. Where's my line here that I drew? Right there. So that looks, can't see the line on this side of the page. Okay, that looks good. I think it's actually a little too wide, maybe. Hard to tell. Hard to tell. I'm going to draw this all the way to the edge here so I can see, try to match this up. Give me just a second here if you would. I really want to see where this is going here. I think it's a little wide actually. It does look a little wide. Why is that? Did I measure this wrong? Oh, yeah, no. 1 and just a little less than a 16th. Should be just right. Let's cut it. What the hell? Right? This is my reference side, so let's just cut it and see. Who knows? I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I'm just trying to follow the plan here. Just following the plan. But now that shows way inside my line there, so I'm not sure what happened there because, yeah, who knows. But let's go ahead and cut this now to, what did we say, 4 3/8, but just actually we're going to go over 3/8 a little bit. 7/16. And let's see what that gets us. 4 7/16. Right there. Let's see where that comes up. And that should be right there. Okay. Here we go. I went just a hair wide on that one for a reason, because I really didn't want it to, you know, I wanted to be as clean as possible going across here, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't undercut it and then leave myself too much wiggle room on here. And as you can see, just a smidge of wiggle room, which is where it needs to be. The ends are all good. And yeah, so we're good to go. So we've got all of them done now. That's pretty amazing. We did all those. I'm going to step back over into the frame here again. Let's pull the camera around to the front here, shall we? Okay. Now that we've kind of done all those things, we need to do two things. First of all, these are really thick, and we don't need that entire thickness. We only need 1/4 of an inch. And if this is already set up to 1/4 of an inch right here. Let me just check it and see what we've got to work with here. Yeah, so we've got basically a good 1/2 of an inch from here to here to get rid of. So a good 1/2 of an inch to clean off of this thing. So now I need to figure out the best way to do that. I can run these across the planer, or not the planer, the jointer. I can't really run these through the through the planer. They are too they're too short, and the planer it'll tip too much because there's rollers that impact, and so as that hits that first roller, it's going to tip down and then come straight and then tip back and then go the rest of the way out, and you'll get sniped. So basically I'll end up with like one area right here that's good and the rest of it's all snipe, and getting it cut that way, not easy to do. And also you have to have something for those rollers to catch on, and I really like to have longer material than that. I can use the jointer, but then what that's going to do is take a long time, because those blades cut a little bit at a time, like a 64th at a time. So I would have to make 32 passes roughly for each one of these to get it down to about that. Now I'm not going to go all the way down to 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to go close to 1/4 of an inch. Close to it, but not to 1/4 of an inch, because that last millimeter or so, right, that last 64th of an inch or so, I'm going to use the hand plane, because it'll be set into the base and then be flushed down to the surface of the hand plane. I also have to sharpen that plane blade up, because stuff like this, if I don't have an extremely sharp blade, will just chip up. So I need to make sure that blade is super, super sharp when I'm going to do these Sapele ones. Some of them are thin enough that I can actually round the corners of them right now. The maple one and the 2 cherries are pretty close. I can get those down to a workable thickness. The Sapele and the oak, grab one of these oak ones. These right here are both just too thick. It would take me a long time to get these down. So I might take these over to the bandsaw and resaw off, I don't know, like 1/4 of an inch of them, and get me in the neighborhood. That keeps me safe from cutting too close and then making it too thin of a cut. So I could do 1/4 of an inch cut off of here on the bandsaw, and that gives me a lot less stock to work with in terms of getting these down, which makes life a lot easier. So I might go that route. I'll tell you what we do have right now are these couple of bases that are pretty much ready to have, I mean, they're close. So let me go like here, let's grab this one. This is the maple. This one I think is gonna be real. I've got very high hopes for the way this one turns out in terms of finishing and stuff, because this is awesome. It just looks beautiful, and I think this is going to turn out really well. What we're going to do now is we're going to mark the corners of this with my lucky nickel right here. Got my nickel. Go to this camera right here so you can see my lucky cup. I've got my nickel right here, and I put that in the corner, and I'm going to draw a radius on these 4 corners, just like I did when I did the bottoms here. This is the exact same radius because I use the exact same blade. That's interesting. I use the same blade. That blade has that, like, I don't know how big that radius is, but it turns out to be about the same radius as a nickel. So I just use a nickel as my template, my guide for doing that. Sorry, I had a little bit of wood there that needed removed. And I will make 4 radius drawings on here. And we'll do that like this. Get a little bit more lead here on my pencil. So try to go right on the edge of the wood there so that I'm not too much. So let's do a little radius right here. The maple's nice because you can actually, it's easier for you to see what I'm doing. So if I hold that up here, you can see that I just drew that radius on there. And it's right there in the corner. And I'm going to do that on all 4 corners. And then we'll take this over to the 12-inch disc sander and just round these on the disc sander. Once I have them rounded, it should fit perfectly into our base. And then I can start, worrying about getting these flushed down, because this one and the 2 cherry ones are pretty close in terms of their thickness. Those were not going to be that much of an issue as far as getting them flattened down. Not as much as those oak and sapele ones are. So this one is now drawn. Let me grab a couple of the cherry ones. Of course, they're under the oak. Of course they would be. Hang on. Hang on here. Oh! All right. Let me make sure I've got the letters on here. That's A. Do I have a letter A on here that I can see? Yep. All right. So remember, I need to know which one goes in which, because they're cut specifically to those sizes. This one has a B. All right. Now these are a little trickier because I have a flat surface. This side is not flat. You can see it still has these saw marks on here. So I can't put this side down on my table for my for my circular sander, because I need to turn them around like this. And if it's all wibbly wobbly, it's not going to give me a good straight cut. So wibbly wobbly, technical term. The other thing is it can be difficult to see pencil on some of this stuff, but let me see how well this shows up on here. That's not too bad. Once I get these corners done, then I can go ahead and kind of jump into the flattening on these. And these actually will not take long. Once I get them fitted in, I will put them into the base and then draw a line around where they match, so I can see how far down I have to go. And then I might use the jointer to remove some of the thickness, because it's not going to be too much. So I might use the jointer to remove some thickness and then go to the hand plane to finish it. I always finish with the hand plane, because the hand plane allows me to really work across the surface of the base and get it exactly the same flatness as these sides. So, all right, that one is marked up. Let's do this one. And then we can go over to the disc sander and make that happen. My disc sander is a 12-inch disc sander that I got from Harbor Freight. One of the tools that I recommend from Harbor Freight as actually being pretty decent. If you need a disc sander, you can. It's a motor with a disc mounted to it. It's not a lot to it. So I can recommend that their 12-inch disc sander does the job. I've got a 6-inch disc and with a belt sander, like a 16-inch belt sander, and that thing is garbage. It's a combo, and I would not recommend that to anybody. It is just crap. The motor isn't strong enough. The belt slides. You can't get the belt off of it. The long belt. It's a horrible design. So, sometimes you get good stuff at Harbor Freight. Sometimes you don't. All right, I'm going to go change a camera angle so you can sort of see what I'm doing. Let me pull this out here, first of all, and get it set up. This won't take long. We're almost at a good stop. Oh, I just knocked a board over. Something's falling back there. What in the world? Fell down back there. Oh, just a board. Okay. Not bad. We're okay. We're okay. Just gonna turn this way. It's already set up pretty much. We just have to get power and plug it in. And I will switch a camera around just so you can get a better view of what I'm doing here. So let me switch this camera over here real quickly. Actually, we're almost right where it needs to be. Let's zoom in here. There we go. Give you a good zoom view. Then you can watch me do this. I am going to hook the dust collection up to these just so that it's not spewing it out into the air. And especially since I have a computer running here for my live stream, it's probably a good idea not to let a lot of dust up. I do have my fan going with the dust filter on there, so I'm kind of controlling it, but don't want to go too crazy. All right, I'm going to put some ears on, and we're going to just, basically, here's what I'm going to do. Let me switch cameras so you can get a good view. We're going to take this with my little radiuses. I've got the radius drawn right here in the corner. I'm going to put this on here. It spins this way, okay? You do not want to use it on this side. You want to use it on this side so that the disc is turning into the wood and pushing pressure down to the table. If you do it here, it's lifting it, and then it can just throw your wood wherever. So this side of the table, and it shows you where the rotation is. There's a little sticker. Excuse me. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to turn this like this, and we're going to rotate it around that radius until we get it all the way down to the pencil mark. That's pretty much it. Once this thing gets up to spinning, it's actually pretty quiet. Most of the noise comes from my my dust collector. Okay, so I'm going to take this over here really quickly and just do a test fit into the base. And let me just knock some of the little fuzzies off here. You can see it doesn't take long to get those roundovers done, though. That's why I like using the disc sander. It's got about a 150 grit on there, but it's fairly aggressive for doing this. And let's see, I think I need to clean up this edge right here. I can probably push this into it and just clean that really quickly. Hang on a second. Come over here, just give a little bit of a kiss on the sander. A little kiss on the sander here. And we'll try that again. So it's actually just a hair long, it looks like. Is that inside? Oh, that's actually in. But it's actually just a touch long. Now I'm going to just clean up these edges just a little bit with the disc sander. So I'm going to just, I'm going to flat press these in just a hair. I don't want to do too much, but getting this as square as I can. where as I can to get these kind of cleaned up. I think I have just a hair too much width or length on these. Might be enough. So I'm just going to keep popping over here and checking real quick. All righty. So now you can see it fits in here perfectly. It just lays right flat inside. That's what we wanted. And then as I sand these edges and such, like I've got some burn marks and stuff on here. So as I sand these, they will fit even better in here, but that gets me really close. So this one, done. Let's take the next one over here, which was, where did I put it? Where did I put them? Do we know where I put the cherry ones? He says, not knowing where he put the other ones. I seem to have lost my mind. Oh, here they are. They were stacked up together, and it looked like one thick one. I was like, well, they're not thick. That's okay. We got this. We got this. All righty. Same thing. I'm going to turn this back on, though. If you've noticed, I've gotten really fast at doing those because I've done a lot of them. I can't step over my... So I've done a lot of these, so it's second nature for me to do them now. That one fits in perfectly. We've got one more to do. Let's go grab it up. Step over. All right, last one. There. Turn this off over here. The other ones, I mean, we need to do them, but I need to get them thinner first. So these are the ones that were most easily rounded over because they had the less thickness to work with. And that's the third one in there. So you can see it fits. And so we've got all, just kind of side stack them here. There we go. These three, 1, 2, 3, are all now fitted into their respective. This one's a little tight here. Still, there we go. Fitted into their respective slots. This is A, right? Yeah, this is A. And B one, and then this is the maple one. So the next step for me on these particular ones would be to take my pencil. Let me move these out of the way real quick. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. Put them over here on the table, just set them aside. I'm going to go to this view. So what I would do is take my pencil and run it right along this edge all the way around the perimeter of that lid. And what that's going to do is show me, that's the don't cross this line in terms of flattening. I do not want to flatten lower than that line. And that line is not going to be equal going all the way around. It should be on the bottom. So here's that line right here. That line comes all the way across, but you can see there's just a little bit of material on this side, a lot more on this side because these aren't even. It's pretty flat on the bottom, but I need to take this down to that surface line there, but not really all the way down. So down here, it's like maybe, this is like maybe 1/8 of an inch. This is maybe like 3/16 right here. So thicker down here. The wood is thicker on this end, but this line is uniform going all the way around because it's using this as the reference side. And then this is the material that's going to be removed. And once it gets down to, has to go in the right way. Once this is set inside here, I will take my plane and I have all of that material removed till it's really low to that pencil line. Then I'll take my plane, I'll run the plane across here, I'll scrub all this wood off of here and get it so that it actually flushes up with the rest of the surface. That's how we will get these taken care of. I also need to sharpen my plane blade a lot and get it super duper sharp, just so that it can handle things like this wood, which is, it's not punky, but it's got a lot of different textures and surfaces to it because it's figured, and we want to cut this cleanly. It's a little punky on the back here, so I might sand this up a little bit and redo those lines. But this could be the bottom of the box. I don't care if the bottom of the lid doesn't look okay, because as long as one of these is beautiful, which this is, oh my God, this is gonna look so good. Anyway, that's the process. So I'll do the same thing on these. You can see this cherry one doesn't have a lot of surface left to come off of here. This is pretty close. I'll still run this through the joiner, because any wood that I can remove with a joiner is less work I have to do with the hand plane. So I basically take this all the way around like this. And like I said, that line right there dictates how far. I do not want to go down to that line. I want to go above that line. But I've only got maybe 3/30 seconds of material to remove on this one. That's really easy to do in the jointer. I'll get this down close, bring it over here, pop this in, hit it with the hand plane, done. These, on the other hand, where I've got all this thickness to go through, these are much more difficult to do because there's too much for me to take off with the jointer. It's gonna obviously stick up a lot more than this. I don't even want to round these over until I get some of that thickness worked off of them. So I think off camera, I will run these through the bandsaw. I will resaw them so that they are not as thick. And then we can go and do the corners and the, maybe I'll do all that tomorrow. Get all these corners done, and we can start working on the thickness of these. And I'll wait till Friday when we come back and do the thicknessing of them in terms of getting them down to flush. And maybe I'll do some of them and then just have a couple left to do to show you. Once we have the corners done, then we can do, we're down to 2 processes left before finishing. So once we get the lids done, then we need to do the roundovers on the edges. So all these corners on all of these get basically a 1-inch roundover. So it's a nice big curvy roundover on there. So they all get a roundover, and I do that on the router table. And then they all get, probably the most important piece is the little triangular pieces that go in the corners, where the machines actually set. They set on triangular supports in the corners. So we need to get all the triangular pieces cut, turned into triangles, and then cut to length to appropriately fit the sewing machines in there. And that's a whole process in itself. That'll take up a whole day just to do that. The corners, just the corners, because once we get them cut, then we have to glue them in. And I have to use special clamping jigs that I've made to clamp the corners and stuff like that. So it's coming along, but it is a process. But this was good. This worked out really well. So getting these cut and sized, fully successful. I was really nervous when we got down to the sapele ones because I don't have any extra sapele to use. So if I screwed one of these up, it's not like I can say, oh, well, back to the wood pile, let's just start over. There was no starting over. I would have to go to the hardwood place, which the guy that I get my sapele from, it's like 2 hours out of my day to do that. It's like an hour down to where he is and an hour back. And I really wasn't up for that trip. So yeah, I'm glad that worked out. All right, what time is it? It is 1:22. It's lunchtime for me. And hopefully you've got a good rest of your day coming up. I appreciate it if you stopped in. I appreciate you coming by. If you could, whatever platform you're on, hit the follow, subscribe, like, whatever's appropriate for where you are. I know on Facebook and on YouTube, maybe on Twitch as well, if you subscribe and or follow, like don't subscribe on Twitch because that means that's a money thing, but the free one, the follow one, and you can subscribe on YouTube, and I think you can follow me on Facebook, but there's a notification thing, like a bell on YouTube and something else, that you can be notified when I actually go live for these things. So if you want to do that and catch the next one and not have to try to remember, even though it's pretty easy, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 o'clock Eastern time. But if you want your computer to just send you a reminder, it'll do that. Remember, all of my socials are linked down below. They're also at the bottom of the page here, but they're also linked in the descriptions or in the About section on Twitch. And thanks for stopping by. And have a great rest of your day. Hump day. You're on your way to Friday, baby. And I'll see you then. All right? Take care.